Once upon a time, in an unknown world, where magic flows in every corner, an epic battlefield erupts. Knights armed with swords and shields fiercely clash, but among them stand out unique characters. Dressed in extraordinary costumes and wielding magical ability, they shake the battlefield with their might, gaining a significant advantage over their rivals. Meanwhile, our protagonists, Taechai and Rin, stroll carefree in our normal world. Taechai, a handsome and tall young man with dark hair, and Rin, a charming red-haired girl, walk without suspecting what is about to come. Suddenly, fate crosses their paths. A distracted cyclist almost runs over Rin, but before tragedy strikes, Taechai saves her by steering her away from danger. At that precise moment, in the magical world, a young sorcerer is about to perform a crucial ritual. However, an assassin interrupts the process and kills his companion, with the intention of eliminating the sorcerer as well. But, to their surprise, an unexpected hero appears and saves the sorcerer in the nick of time. However, the symbol drawn on the ground was modified, triggering a powerful and mysterious summoning ritual. Back in our normal world, Taechai and Rin notice a strange circle reflecting beneath Taechai. Although Taechai senses danger, Rin recklessly rushes towards it. Suddenly, both awaken in a completely new and unfamiliar place. Confusion overtakes them as they wonder how they will be able to return home. Before they can grasp their situation, a sinister enemy charges towards them. A gigantic, malevolent-looking horse threatens their lives. Then, Taechai makes a brave decision, sacrificing himself so that Rin can escape. Courage and determination shine in Taechai's eyes as he single-handedly confronts the ruthless horse. Just when it seems like all is lost for Taechai, a group of adventurers storms onto the scene. Together, they face the dark horse and defeat it, saving Taechai's life. Moved by the young traveler's heroism, the adventurers decide to camp with Taechai and Rin for the night. At dawn, they head towards the city of Aspire. Before bidding farewell, the travelers provide Taechai and Rin with some money for their survival and wish them luck in finding a place to stay. Taechai and Rin were exhausted after a long day of travel, but they finally arrived at an elegant hotel. Upon reaching the reception, the charming receptionist asked them to place their hands on a mysterious crystal sphere to measure their magic levels. She was taken aback by the results, so extraordinary that she could hardly believe it. Immediately, she called her supervisor to witness this incredible event. Without hesitation, Taechai and Rin were sent to accompany a mysterious young woman to an unknown location, where they would receive instructions and discover what to do with their prodigious magical powers. The journey led them to a charming house, where they were greeted by a kind woman named Lemia. With a warm smile, she invited them into her home and served a delicious dinner. Conversation flowed amidst laughter and exquisite flavors. After the feast, Lemia decided to use her own method to measure the magic levels of her guests. Her astonishment was even greater than that of the receptionist, as she found notably high levels of magic in both young individuals. Lemia generously offered to become their teacher and mentor, willing to help them develop their magical ability and turn them into exceptional adventurers. Drunk with excitement and the promise of a new destiny, Taechai and Rin gratefully accepted this invaluable opportunity. However, as the protagonists began their training, in a dark corner somewhere, two mysterious hooded figures whispered to each other. It was evident that they were behind the sabotage of the sorcerer's summoning, an act that, despite irregularity, did not prevent the spell from achieving its objective. At Lemia's house, the young Taechai and Rin listened attentively to their host's words. She revealed to them the extraordinary magnitude of their power, and how unusual it was to find two beings with such potential. Because of this, Lemia decided to adopt them as her disciples, with the goal of teaching them how to properly control and channel their immense power. The next day, while having breakfast with Lemia, the young ones eagerly listened to her explanations of how magic worked in this fascinating world. They discovered that magic was based on the elements, and to their surprise, Rin turned out to be special, capable of mastering all four main elements: water, fire, air, and earth, while most wizards only mastered one. On the other hand, Taechai learned that he was not a common wizard, but a sorcerer, bearing an even more powerful magic than that of wizards. They decided to separate their training in order to enhance their skills. Rin delved into the elemental chambers with Mura, the kind elf who had brought them to Lemia, while Taechai immersed himself in rigorous practices with his mentor, Lemia, aiming to learn how to materialize his magical power. Although Rin demonstrated astonishing mastery of fire from the beginning, Taechai struggled to concentrate and materialize his magical abilities. As the evening fell, exhausted and discouraged for not having achieved his goal throughout the day, Taechai contemplated his failure. At that moment, Rin approached him and offered words of encouragement, urging him to persist. Inspired by that motivation, Taechai stood up determined to try again. As he exerted himself and focused his magic, a mysterious voice resonated in his mind. pushing him to keep going. Finally, Teichai was able to materialize and control his power successfully. After dinner, Lemia and Mira gathered outside the house to discuss the progress of their young disciples. They both concluded that Teichai and Rin came from another world, thus explaining their exceptional power. However, they also recognized the danger that this potentiality could bring upon them. Therefore, they decided to train them intensively for 3 weeks to prepare them and allow them to navigate on their own in their journey toward their uncertain destiny. After a while, Teichai demonstrates his skill by hunting and confronting wild animals, showcasing his prowess in handling his magical powers by killing a wolf and obtaining its valuable fangs. Meanwhile, Rin showcases her control over the elements by defeating a group of wild rabbits using attacks of water, fire, air, and earth. Excited by their victory, Teichai heads towards Rin to show her what he has caught, but suddenly, a massive horse similar to the one that attacked them before appears before them. Convinced that this time they will be able to overcome it, Rin and Teichai brace themselves for the confrontation and ultimately manage to defeat it. After the thrilling hunt, the two return to Lemia's home to enjoy a comforting dinner. However, the master reveals that it is time for them to leave, as she has fulfilled her duty of teaching them everything they needed to learn in order to continue their path as adventurers. Additionally, she confesses that she always knew they came from another world and that the only way to return is to find the sorcerer who brought them there and seek a solution together with him. The night goes on, and Teichai and Rin find themselves in their room, reflecting on what has transpired. Teichai expresses his gratitude to Rin for traveling with him, feeling that without her, he would have perished on several occasions. They both promise each other to keep moving forward and become great adventurers. Suddenly, at midnight, Teichai is awakened by a mysterious voice, one that he has heard before. They have a brief conversation, although the voice doesn't reveal anything of value, leaving Teichai with an intriguing puzzle about who the owner of that voice might be. In a desolate field, Teichai woke up confused and disoriented. He searched for clues in his surroundings, but only found silence and an empty landscape. Suddenly, he heard a familiar and terrifying voice echoing in his mind, promising him a future encounter. Without understanding the meaning of those words, Teichai abruptly woke up, realizing that it had all been just a dream. 2 weeks have passed since Teichai and Rin left the safety of Lemia's house to embark on their adventure as apprentice adventurers in Aspire. They started by accepting minor tasks of rank E, the simplest ones, to gain experience and gradually climb in their classification. One day, while having breakfast, Teichai and Rin received a letter from the Adventurers Guild requesting their presence. Once there, they were assigned a rank D mission to investigate a strange situation that threatened the kingdom. The objective was to gather information from the customers and the waiter of a local bar. If they were successful, they would be promoted to rank D. The two friends accepted the mission excitedly. As they walked through the streets of the kingdom, Teichai and Rin noticed the shortage of products in the shops. A merchant revealed to them that transport vehicles were being attacked by monsters on the way, preventing the arrival of goods. Intrigued, the adventurers realized that their mission was directly related to this problem. At that moment, a mysterious hooded figure observed them from the shadows. When it got dark, Teichai and Rin headed to the bar but were met with hostility and forced to confront the bar's customers. The information they obtained was scarce, so they left the bar and continued their investigation. On a lonely street, Teichai and Rin noticed that they were being followed by 3 mysterious ladies. Without warning, the women pounced on them, attempting to kill them. With skill and bravery, the two friends defeated 2 of the women, but the third one threw a smoke bomb to escape. Fortunately, they managed to capture one of them. They decided to take her to the guild for interrogation and obtain important information. The prisoner was locked in a dark dungeon, chained to a chair, left alone for the night to organize her thoughts and decide between revealing useful information to stay alive or die with her secrets intact. The next day, Teichai and Rin received a visit from Mura, who came with a mission in mind. It wasn't just any mission, it was an invitation to join a joint objective, to investigate the mysterious robberies that have been occurring on the cargo transports. With excitement in her eyes and determination in her voice, she invited them to form a group and venture together on this dangerous journey. Without hesitation, Rin and Teichai accepted the challenge, joining Mira in an adventure that would take them far from the familiar city to a house in the countryside, where desperate farmers had requested their help. They wanted to find the culprits behind the villainous robberies that had been plaguing them for so long. On the forest trail, the daring trio of adventurers, accompanied by the hosts of the house, ventured into a world of shadows and whispers. But fate played them a cruel trick. Instead of encountering the elusive thieves, they stumbled upon a horde of formidable enemies. A giant ogre and 3 brutal orcs emerged from the undergrowth, emanating a threatening aura that made the villagers' hearts tremble. However, Miura, Rin, and Teichai remained unfazed. Amidst the chaos and danger, they prepared bravely to face their terrifying adversaries. Miura's sword skills dazzled everyone as she confronted the fearsome orcs, landing precise blows and dispatching them in quick succession. On the other hand, Rin became the protective shield for the frightened villagers, channeling her inner strength to keep them safe. Meanwhile, Teichai unleashed all his power and martial skills to confront the imposing ogre, fighting with unwavering ferocity and courage. The echoes of the battle subsided, and the group returned triumphantly to the house, safe and sound. They discussed what had happened in the forest with sighs of relief and came to a worrying conclusion. That attack was not a random occurrence but carefully planned by someone else. Now aware that they are facing a much more powerful enemy than they had imagined, they promised to always be alert and united in this dangerous enterprise. Meanwhile, in the deepest shadows of the forest, an enigmatic girl emerges from the remains of animal and human corpses. She draws strength from her victims, absorbing their vital energy and storing it in a crimson sphere. With a sinister gleam in her eyes, she declares her cruel objective: to kill our adventurers. The sun rises in the sky, illuminating a dark dungeon where the girl who had been chained is held captive. Her mind is filled with questions, wondering how it was possible for a young boy to defeat them so easily. At that moment, the guild leader enters the room and asks if she has made a decision. With determination in her eyes, the girl replies affirmatively, but keeps her choice a secret. Meanwhile, Teichai, Rin, and Miura walk through a lush forest with their loyal companions. Suddenly, they discover tracks on the ground and decide to follow the trail. They eventually arrive at the hideout of the thieves they have been searching for. The criminals surrender to the might of the adventurers and are brought to justice by the members of the household. In an unexpected twist, Kasim, the owner of the land, thanks Teichai by shaking his hand. However, Teichai begins to suspect him and decides to investigate his true identity. Kasim confesses that he brought the thieves to the area and collaborated with them. He has been the mastermind behind all the troubles that have ensnared our brave protagonists. Just at that moment, a figure suddenly appears. It's a mysterious girl named Grammy, who was seen the night before absorbing energy from corpses and storing it in a red sphere. Despite being present the entire time, her invisibility cloak prevented our heroes from perceiving her presence. Kasim decides to separate the group of adventurers. Rin and Miura will confront Grammy, whose sword skills and mastery of the air element pose a formidable challenge. On the other hand, Teichai will be in charge of fighting against Kasim, the man who has orchestrated all these problems. The battle begins intensely. Kasim summons an ice wolf, a creature that cannot be affected by physical attacks, and becomes a formidable adversary for Teichai, whose skills rely on close combat. The wolf eats the red sphere that Kasim was holding in his hand, becoming into a bigger red wolf, stronger than before. Meanwhile, Rin and Miura fight against Grammy and are momentarily overwhelmed by her amazing abilities. However, they decide not to give up and attack with determination. Rin creates two elemental swords while Miura takes advantage of the distraction and attacks from multiple angles. Finally, Rin engulfs Grammy in a tornado and makes it explode, successfully defeating her agile opponent. Thinking they had achieved victory, Rin and Miura are surprised to see Kasim show them how Teichai has been defeated by the Fire Wolf. Kasim demands that they surrender if they want to save their friend, but at that moment, Teichai wakes up from unconsciousness and a voice becomes present. It is Ariel, the wind spirit, who has decided to lend him its powers to emerge victorious from the struggle. With an aura of power radiating from his body, Teichai stands up and starts facing the Fire Wolf. His determination and the power lent by Ariel finally allow him to defeat the beast. Kasim and Grammy decide to flee, but not without Teichai launching one last wind attack that takes Kasim's arm, thus showcasing the consequences of his evil deeds. In the forest, Rin and Miura hurry to heal Teichai's wounds, as he has fallen exhausted after the fierce battle. Kasim and Grammy, weakened, vow to each other that this will not be the last time they encounter these brave adventurers, and the next time they meet, they will exact their revenge. Teichai woke up in Lemia's cozy house after a week of deep sleep. He had exhausted all his magical power during his epic battle against Kasim, leaving him devoid of energy. Kindly, Lemia served him a hearty meal, and Teichai eagerly devoured every bite, regaining his strength. Once he finished eating, Lemia invited Teichai to tell her in detail everything that had happened in the forest. As she listened to the tale, Lemia reached a surprising conclusion. Teichai was an summoner, a being capable of harnessing the power of the elements through a pact with spirits. She also revealed the true nature of the mysterious red sphere that Kasim had possessed, a crimson pact, a forbidden curse that used others' energy to enhance the bearer's power. With this new information in mind, Teichai decided to return to Aspire to find Rin and Miura. In Aspire, a meeting was taking place between Kasim, Grammy, and an enigmatic hooded figure who appeared to be their leader. The stranger approached Grammy and left a strange mark on her hand, warning them to prepare for an evil plan that would unfold that very night, the details of which were still unknown to us. Teichai headed to the dining hall in search of Rin and Mura, but they were nowhere to be found. He decided to venture out into the streets and witness two individuals harassing a woman. Moved by his heroic instincts, Teichai intervened and defeated one of the assailants, causing the other to flee in fear. To his surprise, the woman turned out to be Anastasia, the girl whom Teichai had captured before and who now worked for the guild as a reformed former assassin. Anastasia had been investigating the disappearance of vehicles transporting goods to the kingdom, and Teichai decided to join her. Using their stealth and combat skills, they began a thorough search in the hall where Kasim and his leader had gathered. During their inspection, they discovered a secret tunnel hidden beneath the kingdom and decided to venture inside to find more clues. Meanwhile, Rin and Mura were strolling through the kingdom's market when they were ambushed by a criminal who attacked them. Rin and Mura fought fiercely, but they realized it was just a distraction when Grammy emerged from the shadows and kidnapped Mura. Rin attempted to rescue her but was hindered by long-range mages and the criminal who had attacked them earlier. Despite the obstacles, Rin defeated all her adversaries and finally found Grammy. She learned that Grammy's intention was not to confront her at that moment but to warn her about Mura's imminent fate. Grammy revealed that they planned to use her in a Crimson Pact. With the direction in her hands, Rin hurried to free Mura before the evil ritual could be completed. Just as Rin and Mura managed to free themselves and escape, Kasim and his leader made their entrance. They informed them of an upcoming attack on the kingdom by an army of monsters empowered by the Crimson Pact. Kasim was excited to witness how Aspire would withstand this terrible assault, although he was convinced that they would fail. With this shocking revelation, Mura and Rin found themselves in a desperate and uncertain situation, knowing that the city was in imminent danger. It is nighttime in the kingdom. Kasim walks alongside his boss, engaged in an important conversation. They both discuss the chances of success for a crucial plan that will determine the fate of the city. They talk about the sacrifice of many people and how it will be worth it to protect their home. However, the threat they face is even more sinister than they imagine. In the underground tunnel, the fearless Teichai confronts a formidable stone golem, but with determination and skill, he manages to defeat it with surprising ease. While Teichai and Amelia explore the tunnel, they discover an enigmatic door that opens to reveal two little girls named Milo and Milo. These girls seem to possess a hidden power, a crystal ball that grants them the ability to awaken and control evil elves, strengthened by a mystical Crimson Pact. Teichai, concerned about the consequences of releasing these creatures, warns the girls about the imminent danger. Unfortunately, they disregard his warnings and awaken the elves. Chaos and violence unleash as the elves fiercely attack Teichai. However, with his combat prowess and loyalty, the brave warrior defeats them one by one, always protecting Amelia from harm. Suddenly, the girls drop the crystal ball, causing it to shatter. At that moment, the elves become uncontrollable and mercilessly attack, even directing their wrath towards the girls themselves. Teichai, despite being betrayed, rushes to save Milo and Milo from the fate they have unleashed upon themselves. Meanwhile, in the Grand Guild Leaders' Hall, a crucial strategic meeting is taking place. Rin, Mura, and the leader are engrossed in a discussion on how to organize the defense of the kingdom. In the midst of the conversation, a determined figure enters, Lemia, offering her loyalty and bravery to join the kingdom's defense. With the fate of the city at stake, Kasim and Teichai, along with their allies, prepare to face a test of courage and sacrifice. The epic battle is about to begin, where their only hope is to withstand the impending attack from the horde of monsters from the outside and the terrible elves lurking in the depths, ready to devastate everything in their path. The sun rises on the horizon, painting the sky with golden hues. Rin, Mura, and Lemia, determined to protect their kingdom, climb the fortress walls with resolve. With courage, Rin unleashes a powerful long-range attack, combining fire, water, and earth in a massive explosion. The monsters threatening the kingdom are obliterated, but a legion still remains to be defeated. The kingdom's immense gates swing wide open, inviting the defenders to launch into the battlefield. Far away, Kasim and his leader observe the chaos unfolding in the battle. The boss reveals a dark secret. This is not the entirety of their strength, as even more imposing and powerful monsters are heading towards the kingdom, ready to reduce it to ashes. Meanwhile, Teichai arrives at the guildmaster's shop, where the strategy for the next defense is being planned. He leaves Milo, and Amelia there, promising the latter that he will return safe and sound. Without wasting a moment, he heads towards the battlefield, eager to fight. In the distance, three colossal monsters loom on the horizon. They are larger and more powerful than anything they have faced before. Rin, Mira, and Lemia join forces in a final effort to defeat them, but their attacks prove futile. Despairingly, they watch as their blows have no effect whatsoever. Exhausted from the drain of her magical power, Rin falls to her knees, unable to move. Her mind fills with images of Teichai, who has always been there to rescue her. Gratitude fills her heart as she becomes petrified, unable to avoid her impending fate. But just as the monster approaches to crush her, Teichai bravely appears and stops the deadly blow. Saving Rin from certain death, he demonstrates his loyalty and love for his dear friend. The city is engulfed in chaos, with women and children fearing the looming threats upon the kingdom. Brave warriors are launching into battle to protect their home. Amidst the turmoil, Teichai comes across Lemia, Mira, and Rin, whom he just saved from danger. He introduces the two girls, Milo and Milo, and asks for their help in dealing with the remaining monsters while he faces off against 3 colossal giants. From a distant location, Kasim and his leader observe the scene, discussing their plan and realizing that something even greater is about to unfold. They mention the existence of a higher being that controls them and the entire kingdom, to whom they obediently submit without question. Back in the city, Anastasia tends to the wounded, her thoughts centered on the importance of Teichai to her. Unexpectedly, she stumbles upon a masked stranger who whispers something in her ear. These words cause Anastasia to lose control of herself and begin wandering aimlessly. The battle in the field rages on, and Rin manages to regain strength, fighting alongside her companions against the monsters. Lemia, Mira, Milo, Milo, and Rin act as a perfectly synchronized team. Meanwhile, Teichai defeats the 3 giants, but as he turns to confront another, the ground starts shaking, and an imposing 2-headed dragon emerges. The surprising emergence of the dragon bewilders everyone, as these mythical creatures rarely involve themselves in surface conflicts. Meanwhile, Kasim's leader takes delight in seeing that his plan is unfolding just as he had predicted. To protect them, Teichai asks Lemia and Mura to step away from the battle and prepare the city for a possible evacuation if he fails to defeat the dragon. Rin decides to stay by his side, albeit without directly joining the fight. Despite Teichai's efforts, his attacks prove ineffective against the mighty dragon. The dragon manages to gravely injure Teichai, who, as he recovers, sees Anastasia, oblivious to her actions, arriving by his side. In a moment of bravery, Anastasia shields Teichai from an imminent dragon attack and takes the blow, resulting in a mortal wound. In her last words, Anastasia asks Teichai to be friends if he manages to survive and regrets not having expressed her feelings to him. Embraced by sadness, Anastasia passes away in Teichai's arms, leaving him enraged. He manages to establish a communication with Ariel, the spirit of the wind. In that instant, Teichai and Ariel form a pact between spirit and sorcerer, granting Teichai the ability to invoke Ariel's powers to confront the dragon. Rin arrives at the scene and stays beside Anastasia's lifeless body, while Teichai, strengthened by their newfound bond, unleashes his final attack against the dragon. Both combatants launch simultaneous attacks, but Teichai emerges victorious. The dragon reveals that it was sent to challenge him by someone familiar, under the orders of an important figure hidden in an unknown location. This enigmatic being is the mastermind behind all the events in the kingdom. Along with Kasim's leader, plans to continue guiding Teichai in carrying out their mysterious purposes. It has been some time since the invasion of the monsters, and the city has taken a heavy blow, but it has managed to rise and move forward. Teichai is visiting Anastasia's grave, his beloved, wishing that wherever she is watching him being happy. We see Teichai, Rin, Mira, and Lemia gathered at Lemia's house. Teichai shows them how he has finally mastered his summoner powers, even being able to summon Ariel, his powerful creature, making her visible to everyone. Amidst their pleasant conversation, they are interrupted by the arrival of royal vehicles at Lemia's house. A woman named Alcina Norman gets out of one of the vehicles, introducing herself as Marquis Norman's daughter and King Gilmer's assistant. She comes on behalf of the king to ask the 4 of them to accompany her to the capital, as the king desperately needs their help. During the journey to the capital, Alcina reveals the internal conflicts unfolding in the royal family. The kingdom is divided into 2 factions, King Gilmer's faction and his brother, Duke Dordesheim's faction. The king's brother has started a rebellion against him due to his plans to expand the kingdom's magical knowledge, while his brother believes that the only way to protect the kingdom is by keeping this knowledge hidden. This could lead to the start of a conflict, and that's why the king needs Teichai and his companions' help. Once they reach the capital, Wenifix, they discover a desolate city. The streets are empty, and a dark and tense atmosphere is felt everywhere. As they descend from the vehicle, an arrow is shot towards Alcina, but Teichai manages to intercept it before it harms her. At that moment, our adventurers realize the danger they are facing in that place. Finally, they enter the castle and are led to the royal chamber, where they encounter important figures of the royalty such as Bella Lafuma, the head royal mage, General Sumela, the army commander, and Princess Charlotte Alistini, the king's daughter. King Gilmer sits on his throne and thanks them for coming, requesting their aid in the upcoming. Lemia interrupts and confronts the king directly, as it seems they have known each other for a long time. The king reveals that he was the one who summoned Teichai and Rin to this world. A tense exchange of words unfolds between them, as Lemia considers the king selfish for bringing them to such a dangerous world to fight in his battle. Despite this, they agree to help the king in his conflict. After this discussion, Teichai and Rin retire to their room, only to be interrupted by Princess Charlotte. She reveals that she was actually the one who summoned them, apologizing for her actions and explaining that she did it as a last resort to prevent the conflict. She also promises to find a way to send them back to their world. However, before they can continue their conversation, Lemia interrupts again and summons Teichai to a battlefield to test his strength against General Sumela. Teichai manages to defeat her, but she falls in love with him and asks him to be her husband. Teichai politely rejects her proposition. Later, Teichai finds himself pondering the stars in the sky, summoning his companion Ariel to converse with her. He expresses his fears and concerns about the power he possesses and the fear of hurting someone, especially Rin. After a long day, Teichai goes to find Rin in her room, only to find her naked in the bathroom. Embarrassed, he quickly exits. The night ends with Princess Charlotte praying for the well-being of her people, while Cardinal Ladra, a familiar face responsible for the destruction of the city of Aspire, enters the scene and presents himself as someone trustworthy to the princess. Teichai walked through the endless corridors of the castle in search of Rin. The weight of battle and devastation was reflected in the neglected appearance of the plants, which Rin diligently watered. Meanwhile, at the other end of the kingdom, Duke Dordesheim and his advisors gathered to discuss the attack strategy. General Nilgen proposed a direct assault on the capital with a foolproof plan that promised victory. The Duke entrusted him and granted him full powers to act. Amidst the tension spreading throughout the kingdom, Sumela, the loyal advisor to the king, reported about the imminent enemy troops led by the king's brother. They called for a council to plan their defense. Rin and Teichai, filled with doubts and rejection towards violence, hesitated to participate, but Lemia convinced them by reminding them that they must defend themselves to avoid becoming victims. After the meeting, Teichai made his way to Rin's room, who kindly invited him to rest beside her. Sitting on the bed, Rin shared her nostalgia for her previous life, recounting her nerves in playing tennis back in her world. In the middle of the night, Teichai sensed the presence of a cunning assassin, sent by one of the Duke's advisors, who infiltrated Rin's room and stabbed the bed, thinking they had succeeded. However, Teichai, always alert, had already perceived their presence, and both managed to hide before the assassin entered. Upon discovering the assassin in the act, Teichai confronted the intruder, engaging in a fierce battle. Despite their desperate attempts to escape, the assassin fell from the balcony, meeting their fatal fate. At dawn, the Duke's troops began their direct invasion of the kingdom. Teichai and his companions strategically positioned themselves atop the walls to protect the territory. Teichai unleashed a powerful gust of wind, creating a rift to impede the enemy's advance. However, they were unaware that the Duke's army possessed magical rings that granted them powers, but at the cost of their own life energy. Lemia discovered this weakness and devised a plan to avoid further unnecessary deaths. Rin was tasked with generating intense rain and electrifying the enemy troops, rendering them unconscious but without causing death. The plan proved successful, and all enemy soldiers lay unconscious on the ground. General Nilgen, still standing, realized that Inimix, the individual who had provided them with the magic rings promising victory, had betrayed them. Without mercy, Inimix stabbed Nilgen, considering his role to be over and seeing him as nothing more than a hindrance. After putting an end to the confrontation, everyone came out to celebrate the victory. However, Teichai stepped aside from the festivities to go to the place where Rin used to water the flowers. There, he found Rin, and together they admired how the once withered plants had bloomed again, as if hope and love had conquered the darkness. A new day dawned in the kingdom, and Rin made their way determinedly to Teichai's room. Upon entering, they found their friend awake but visibly affected, with something important on their lips but interrupted by a sudden discomfort. With no time to investigate, Lemia burst into the room urgently. The king required Rin and Teichai's immediate presence. Intrigued and expectant, they followed Lemia to the royal chamber. There, Princess Charlotte thanked them for their heroic deeds by granting them gifts of great importance, weapons from the royal house. Each adventurer would have the opportunity to choose one. Mira, resolute, opted for an elegant dagger, while Rin seized a striking scepter. Lemia chose a ring that enhanced her powers, and Teichai's attention was drawn to a particular katana. With their new weapons in hand, they headed to the training field to put their skills to the test. Sumela challenged Teichai to a confrontation, eager to see his swordsmanship, but once again, nausea plagued him and he was forced to withdraw. Determined to find a solution, Teichai ventured to the market in search of a remedy. To his surprise, he had become a beloved figure in the city, admired for his actions in battles. However, his encounter with Kasim darkened his visit, as the resentful man challenged him to a duel seeking revenge for his own lost arm. Curiously, Kasim led Teichai to a secluded place where he revealed a strange object, whose purpose was to equalize their power levels. Despite Ariel's warnings, Teichai accepted the conditions. Then, they fought with intensity, but it was ultimately Teichai who prevailed, showing Kasim that he still remained superior. Kasim revealed that the only way to regain his powers was by breaking the object that contained them. However, when Teichai prepared to do so, an evil aura emanated from the object, threatening to attack him. In that decisive moment, Grammy appeared to his rescue, breaking the object and releasing Teichai's powers. With his abilities restored, Teichai used a powerful wind technique to dispel the evil aura, bravely defeating it. Grammy took the defeated Kasim away, who felt humiliated by his defeat. Meanwhile, in a hidden place within the kingdom, Cardinal Ladra met with a mysterious woman who concealed her face behind curtains, revealing an intriguing and unknown conspiracy. Battle had been declared by Duke Dordesheim's faction, and the king's entire army prepared for the imminent clash. Knights patrolled the streets, alerting civilians to take shelter as the city braced itself for a dangerous and risky battle. Rin and Teichai, sharing a moment of reflection on the balcony, made an unbreakable promise to take care of each other and stay together no matter what, united in their determination to face the challenges that lay ahead in the impending conflict. The battlefield was ready to witness an epic clash between Duke Dordesheim and his army, and King Gilmer alongside his loyal soldiers. As the warriors prepared for the confrontation, the Duke received counsel from his right-hand man, Inimix, who presented him with a foolproof plan to defeat the adventurers who had joined his brother. Filled with confidence, Duke Dordesheim initiated the battle, determined to claim the kingdom for himself. On the other hand, King Gilmer inspired his troops, motivating them to fight with all their hearts to protect the kingdom, their homes, and their families. The soldiers were willing to give their lives for their beloved sovereign. The battlefield became the stage for a fierce contest. Both the king's supporters and the duke suffered heavy casualties, but among the crowd, 3 brave warriors stood out: Rin, Mira, and Lemia. Their skill and bravery surpassed all others, giving hope to their side. However, Teichai decided to take action on his own and flew directly to the camp where Duke Dordesheim was stationed. His aim was to negotiate a surrender and prevent further tragedy on the battlefield. Meanwhile, in the kingdom, Cardinal Ladra clandestinely met with an enigmatic woman whose identity remained hidden. The woman confessed to the cardinal that the plan was unfolding as expected, leaving many questions about her true intentions hanging in the air. Back in the battle, 3 warriors from the opposing side decided to challenge our valiant adventurers. Rin, the bold A-rank warrior, was confronted by Suzola, a determined and strong fighter. On the other hand, Mira, who had fought tirelessly to prove her worth, faced an arrogant knight who underestimated women in fight. But the most unexpected surprise came when Lemia, the mysterious warrior, was challenged by a mage named Mistforos. Everyone was stunned witnessing the magical abilities and cunning of this new enemy. Duke Dordesheim, accompanied by Inimix, was in a tent with his soldiers and generals, analyzing strategies for the impending battle. Suddenly, a young adventurer named Teichai burst into the tent, leaving everyone astonished at having managed to traverse the entire battlefield and reach them. Impressed by Teichai's audacity, the Duke ordered everyone to leave the tent, except for his loyal Inimix. Teichai approached the Duke with an unexpected proposal. If they retreated from the battle and ended the conflict, the king would spare their lives. However, the Duke flatly rejected this idea, refusing to consider any surrender options. While the Duke and Teichai debated, Inimix executed a sinister ability. He took control of the minds of all soldiers in the battle, compelling them to fight on his side, leaving them without agency, only driven by their thirst for destruction. Meanwhile, in the midst of the chaotic battle, Lemia managed to overcome her opponent by disintegrating him with a powerful fire attack. On the other hand, Mira, tired of her rival's derogatory comments, decided to swiftly and efficiently end his life. Deceiving her enemy with a frontal attack, she quickly slit his throat with a dagger, bringing the confrontation to a close. However, Rin faced greater difficulties in fighting against Suzola, a formidable warrior with dominant physical strength. Rin decided to stop defending and go on the offensive, gaining the upper hand in the battle. Just as they were about to resume their duel, they noticed bodies rising from the ground to attack them. Joining forces, Rin and Suzola fought together against these menacing, malevolent soldiers. Back in the Duke's tent, Both Teichai and Ariel became aware of Inimix's sinister actions and immediately grew alarmed. They soon uncovered the true intentions of the traitor. He never considered the Duke his lord and had been working towards the plans of a mysterious woman. This woman, referred to as that person, is behind all the manipulations and conspiracies. Inimix reveals that the true plans of that person are the total destruction of the world and an unprecedented tragedy in the history. Long ago, a brutal battle known as the Evil Rhapsody broke out. What was supposed to be a quick resolution conflict turned into a frenzy of chaos and death. Soldiers inexplicably lost control of their actions and began attacking each other, plunging everyone into an unprecedented tragedy. Amidst the battle raging in these dark days, a small group of brave fighters still stands. Mira, Lemia, Rin, Suzola, and some members of the Royal Guard are surrounded by malevolent forces as that person revels in the chaos they have unleashed. Rin and Suzola find themselves in a desperate situation, as the only way to defeat the enemy soldiers is to take their lives. However, Rin refuses to kill anyone, believing that her powers are meant to protect, not harm. Teichai, on the other hand, is also faced with this moral dilemma. He realizes that the only way to overcome the enemies is by killing them. The Duke, in a hostile tone, urges him to fulfill his duty, arguing that he cannot protect his people if he doesn't act with determination and eliminate those who threaten his kingdom. But then, in a moment of remorse, the Duke confesses that his actions have led to the destruction of the kingdom instead of protecting it. Teichai finds himself in a state of great internal conflict, but his concern for Rin leads him to a decision. He understands that the only way to protect her is by eliminating the malevolent soldiers, so he decides to act and confront them without hesitation. However, when Teichai begins to gather energy to attack, Ariel, the spirit of the wind, stops him. She doesn't believe that is the right solution and begins to argue with him. In the midst of the discussion, Ariel reveals that she has been lying to him all this time. She has never fully lent him her power out of fear of what Teichai could do with it. Furthermore, she reveals that her true name is not Ariel and that she has concealed her true form. Teichai is baffled by this revelation, but all his doubts dissipate when the spirit of the wind, determined to fully trust him, completely empowers him. In this way, her true name is revealed, and Teichai is amazed by her true form. At the moment Rin reaches Teichai's location, he embraces her with joy. He is relieved to see her safe and promises to protect her, as well as the entire kingdom. He won't allow anyone else to get hurt. Stepping away from Rin, Teichai decides to fully invoke the powers of the wind spirit, aware that this means losing his humanity. However, he is not afraid because he knows that protecting his beloved and his kingdom is more important than anything else. With determination, he invokes the powers of the wind, using his true name, Elemental Sylphide. Upon invocation, Teichai unleashed a mighty beam of energy towards the symbol in the sky, freeing the soldiers who had been transformed into beasts. After breaking the spell, Teichai found himself face to face with Inimix, a winged creature consumed by evil. They ascended into the skies and engaged in a revealing conversation. Inimix explained that Teichai was a weapon of destruction created by that person, whose name he was not yet ready to learn. The conversation concluded, and fists began to fly. Despite Inimix's acquired power, Teichai proved unbeatable with his unparalleled mastery over the wind. Eventually, Teichai defeated Inimix, who acknowledged that Teichai's inability to kill was his greatest weakness. Nevertheless, Teichai had left that behind along with his humanity. Creating a tornado in his palm, Teichai swiftly ended his opponent's life. Days passed, and Teichai woke up to the news that the conflict had come to an end, and he was credited with its resolution. Despite the losses and casualties, the capital began to recover and return to its normal routine. Victorious King Gilmer summoned the adventurers to the royal chamber to reward them and prepare them for the army in case the kingdom faced danger again. While the citizens and royalty celebrated, in a dungeon within the castle, Duke Dordesheim, the king's brother, was executed for treason. Teichai, perched on a balcony, gazed at the horizon when Lemia approached him. She assured him that he should not feel guilty for what had transpired and that he was young, having time to make mistakes and make amends. Bidding farewell to Wenifix, Teichai and his companions returned to Aspire. Princess Charlotte bid them an emotional farewell and promised to do everything in her power to find a way to send them back home. As they headed towards their city, the atmosphere was filled with happiness, but Teichai still felt unease about Inimix's words. He knew that the problems would not be over until he defeated that person. The brave heroes returned to Aspire, their home, after long and arduous adventures. They yearned for rest and tranquility after so many challenges. As they entered the city, they noticed an unusual decoration and remembered the Star Festival, a sacred night where the dead walk among the living in an ancient tradition of Aspire. They decided to set up a booth at the festival, but first, they needed to acquire the emblematic masks that were an essential part of the celebration. While searching for the masks, Taechai and Rin observed an old woman buying one to place on her husband's grave, who had passed away 6 months ago. This emotional moment made them understand the significance of the festival for the city's inhabitants, so they decided to join in the tradition. Taechai led Rin to Anastasia's grave and placed a mask in her honor. He explained to Rin the importance of Anastasia in his life, and together they offered a prayer in her memory. Back in the city, the guild discussed what to sell at their booth until Taechai had a brilliant idea to offer shaved ice. He asked Rin to create a giant ice crystal from which they would extract the delicious shaved ice. Taechai invited everyone to try them, and the response was unanimous. They loved them. Rin, Mura, and Lemia left Taechai in charge of the shaved ice booth and went to prepare for the evening. When night fell, Taechai's friends went to visit him, and shortly after, Rin, Mura, and Lemia arrived. Taechai was impressed by Rin's dazzling beauty. After a while, Lemia encouraged Taechai to leave the booth and invite Rin to dance. So, Taechai approached Rin and took her to the dance floor. They danced for a large part of the evening, immersed in the magic of the moment. The time came for the last song of the night, and with it, Anastasia appeared. Her soul manifested, following the ancient tradition of descending into the world of the living and making contact with them. Rin urged Taechai to invite Anastasia to dance, and he agreed. Thus, Taechai ended the night dancing with Anastasia's spirit while Rin and Mura enjoyed dancing together. With this, we bring to a close this fascinating and epic story, filled with adventures and exciting situations that strengthen the bonds between our protagonists, leaving a future ahead that is completely uncertain but intriguing at the same time. Hit the like button and subscribe if you like it. Write in the comments the word magician if you want more videos like this one.